Week 18 of the fantasy baseball season, and here's a few hitters I look to add this week. The first guy, James Outman of the Los Angeles Dodgers. Outman got off to a hot start the first month of the season. Then he really fizzled out, but now he's getting things going once again on the season. 13 home runs, 49 RBIs, 55 runs scored, 13 stolen bases, a 253 average and a 354 on base, a very good on base percentage. Power's pretty decent here for Outman in his first opportunity in the major leagues, but obviously the K rate is definitely a problem. With the last month of the season, 2 home runs, 9 RBIs, 4 stolen bases, 14 runs scored, a 328 average, and a 481 on base. So right now he's pretty much been getting on base 50% of the time over the last month here as Outman, and it's definitely good to see. The only thing is he don't really start versus lefties. July 30th versus the Reds, 1 for 3. August 1st versus the A's, 0 for 1, a run, 2 RBIs. August 2nd versus the A's, 1 for 3, a run, a rib. August 4th at San Diego, 2 for 3, a homer, 2 RBIs, a stolen base. August 5th at San Diego, 1 for 3. And right now, he's getting his hitters out, man. He's showing some power. He's stealing some bases, and he's getting on base as well. So right now, still available in 50% of fantasy leagues. And he's definitely a hitter that can help fantasy owners in many categories. Like I said, he's Outman. And this Los Angeles Dodger team, it seems like every few seasons there's someone new that comes up through the system and really develops and is a cornerstone player for them. And Outman definitely has that upside where he could be that for fantasy owners and obviously the Los Angeles Dodgers over the next few seasons. So right now he's definitely a solid pickup this week. The next hit is Mike Tauchman of the Chicago Cubs, to the former New York Yankee. He's going out there and playing great baseball, and he's been part of this resurgence with this Cub team over the last month of the season. On the year for Tauchman, 6 home runs, 40 RBIs, 41 runs scored, 4 stolen bases, a 277 average, and a 371 on base. So right now, the last month of the season, he's on fire. 4 home runs, 21 RBIs, 2 stolen bases, 20 runs scored, a 342 average, and a 402 on base. So right now available in 70% of fantasy leagues. He's been the table setter of late as well for this Cub team, batting leadoff. The only thing with him, he's another hitter that don't really verse lefties, is Tauchman. August 1st versus the Reds, 2 for 3, a homer, 4 RBIs, a stolen base, 3 runs scored. August 2nd versus the Reds, 2 for 3, 2 runs, 2 ribs. August 3rd versus the Reds, 1 for 4. August 5th versus the Braves, 1 for 4 with a run. And August 6th versus the Braves, 2 for 5 with 2 runs scored and a stolen base. So right now, a little bit of everything you're getting here from Mike Tauchman. And him and the Chicago Cubs have a nice series coming up at a New York Met team that obviously is free-falling and traded all their top pitchers away in Scherzer and Justin Verlander. Well, right now, this Cub team could go into Citi Field and definitely tee off. And I think Mike Tauchman definitely could be a big part of it. So right now, while he's still out there in 70% of fantasy leagues, and he could give you some stolen bases, he's going to score his runs, and he's got some pop as well. He's worth an ad this week. The next hitter, Gary Sanchez of the San Diego Padres. So Gary Sanchez, he was pretty much out of the league coming into the season, bouncing around with the San Francisco Giants in the minors, then going to the Mets, having a cup of coffee in the major leagues with them. And then the Padres claimed him off waivers, and now he's been hitting the baseball pretty well in terms of power, but obviously batting average you're not going to get from Sanchez. But we know catcher is one of the weakest, if not the weakest position in fantasy baseball. So right now, Sanchez, he's out there in 79% of fantasy leagues on the season. Like I said, definitely the big-time power is still there for him. 14 home runs in only 176 at-bats, 36 RBIs, 27 runs scored, a 216 average, and a 293 on base. So right now, Sanchez, he's going out there. He's showing power, and there's no pressure on him. Obviously, in the lineup with Juan Soto, Manny Machado, and Fernando Tatis is your big boppers, and Si-Hung Kim becoming a great player this season. Right now, Sanchez, he could just go out there, get a lot of good pitches to hit, and show his power, and that's exactly what he's been doing, especially the last month of the season. 7 home runs, 15 RBIs, a 258 average, a 333 on base, and 13 runs scored. So Sanchez, he's playing loose right now. He's showing power, and he's a solid ad this week, even though I know he could go way below the Mendoza line. We've seen it before with him. But right now, while he's hitting the baseball well, he's a solid pickup this week. July 30th versus the Rangers, 2 for 4, 2 homers, 2 ribs. July 31st at the Rockies, 0 for 5. August 1st at the Rockies, 0 for 3. August 2nd at the Rockies, 3 for 5, 2 homers, 4 RBIs. And August 5th versus the Dodgers, 1 for 3. with a run. So right now, if you're looking for power, Gary Sanchez is definitely a hitter that could bring that to fantasy owners. And like I said, he's out there in 79% of fantasy leagues. The next hit is Freddie Fermin of the Kansas City Royals. So another catcher here. And Fermin, he's only been up for a little bit with this Royal team, but he's starting to get things going. 8 home runs, 26 RBIs, 21 runs scored, a 308 average, and a 346 on base. So right now, with only 147 at-bats, he's showing some pop here with the 8 home runs this Fermin. And obviously for a Kansas City Royal team, that's one of the worst teams in the league, under 35 wins this season. He's going to get tons of playing time and be an everyday player for this rebuilding team. With Salvador Perez, who's been playing a little bit more first base of late as well the last couple weeks here for Fermin. 4 home runs, 6 RBIs. 8 runs scored, a 387 average, and a 394 on base, so he's not drawing a lot of walks. He's an early count swinger here as Fermin, but hey, the power is showing up for him and the batting average of late. August 1st versus the Mets, 0 for 4 rib. August 3rd versus the Mets, 2 for 4, 2 runs. August 4th at Philly, 2 for 4, run and a rib. August 5th at the Phillies, 2 for 4 with 2 homers in that one. And August 6th at Philly, 2 for 4. So right now, playing good baseball is Fermin, showing some pop, showing some batting average. And he's available right now in tons of fantasy leagues, pretty much virtually everywhere. At 96%, the next hitter is Marcell Ozuna of the Atlanta Braves. So we know he's pretty much power or nothing is Marcell Ozuna. But he fits this Atlanta Brave offense like a glove as a perfect DH here with amazing hitters like Matt Olson, Austin Riley, Ozzie Albies, Ronald Acuna. The list goes on, obviously. Michael Harris, Orlando Arcia. So right now, another guy who's going to get pitches to hit like Gary Sanchez. No pressure on him. And he's hitting the ball well in terms of home runs this season. 23 homers, 50 RBIs. 46 runs scored, a 234 average, and a 308 on base. I know, obviously, the batting average isn't going to be there, and the strikeout rate's going to be pretty high as well for Ozuna. But he's showing power in the last 2 weeks. 5 home runs, 7 RBIs, 9 runs scored, a 256 average, and a 326 on base. So right now, Ozuna has actually been picked up in 19% of fantasy leagues this week here, but still available in 50% of leagues. August 1st versus the Angels, 0 for 2. August 2nd versus the Angels, 0 for 5. August 4th at the Cubs, 1 for 3 with a homer. August 5th at the Cubs, 1 for 2. And August 6th at the Cubs, 1 for 3 with a run. So right now, Ozuna, you know what you're going to get from him at this part of his career. He's going to show power and not really batting average, even though I know in the shortened season in 2020, he led the National League in batting average. But obviously, that was only a 60-game season. But anyway, if you need power, he's definitely the hitter, obviously, to go out there and get this week, because he's on pace for about 35 home runs right now, is Marcell Ozuna. The next hitter is Luis Rinfingo of the Los Angeles Angels. So another big pickup this week, added in 20% of fantasy leagues here is Rinfingo. And right now, still out there in 64% of leagues. So on the season, 11 home runs, 34 RBIs, 42 runs scored, 5 stolen bases, a 231 average, and a 320 on base. But over the last few weeks here, he's been playing good ball. 4 home runs, 7 RBIs, 10 runs scored, a 302 average, and a 383 on base. So right now he's getting on base a lot. Qualifies at a lot of positions, second, third, short, and outfield this season is Rinfingo. And right now he's been a good hitter over the last few weeks here, and the table setter as well for this Los Angeles Angel team, with Zach Neto in and out of the lineup. So the last few games for him: August 1st at Atlanta, 0 for 3. August 2nd at the Braves, 1 for 5 a run. August 3rd versus the Mariners, 0 for 4. August 4th versus the Mariners, 2 for 4, and that one a homer, an RBI, 2 runs scored. August 5th versus the Mariners, 1 for 3. And August 6th versus the Mariners, 1 for 4. So right now he's pretty much getting on base at least one time a game. And also he's got a hit in the last 4 out of 5 games as well, is Rinfingo. So he's playing good baseball for this Los Angeles Angel team. He's a table setter, and like I said, he qualifies at a lot of positions, which is obviously always good to have versatility in fantasy baseball. And he's a good add this week. And it's Mitch Garver of the Texas Rangers. So we know, obviously, Jonah Heim, he's out with injury. And next man up is Mitch Garver. And we know in his Minnesota Twin days, he's definitely had some power with Mitch Garver. And even this season, he's shown some solid pop. 7 home runs in 137 at-bats, 23 RBIs, 19 runs scored, a 271 average, and a 358 on base. And over the last month of the season, with not many at-bats under his belt, only 51, 3 home runs, 7 RBIs, 6 runs scored, a 298 average, and a 389 on base. So Mitch Garver, just like Gary Sanchez, who I mentioned early in the video. Marcell Ozuna, he's in the lineup where obviously opposing pitchers aren't going to really pitch around Garver, and he's going to get good stuff to hit with hitters like Adolis Garcia, Corey Seager, Nathaniel Lowe in that lineup, Ezekiel Duran, Josh Jung. So this lineup goes on as well. And Garver right now available in 89% of fantasy leagues. Obviously, the problems with Garver throughout his career is staying healthy, because if he could be on the field for a full season, he's definitely a 15 to 20 home run player. But anyway, August 1st versus the White Sox, 1 for 3 a homer. August 2nd versus the White Sox, 1 for 4. August 3rd versus the White Sox, 2 for 4 a homer, 2 ribs. August 4th versus the Marlins, 2 for 3 a run. And August 6th versus the Marlins, 1 for 4 with an RBI. So right now he's the everyday catcher till Jonah Heim comes back. And he's got a great matchup coming up. Obviously, at the Oakland Athletics, they're the worst team in the league, and their pitching staff really can't get anyone out. So right now, if you need help with catcher, this week there's some pretty solid options with Gary Sanchez, Freddie Fermin, who I mentioned earlier. And right now here, with Mitch Garver available in 89% of fantasy leagues. Next hitter, Zach Goloff of the Oakland Athletics. Goloff, one of their top prospects in the minor leagues, and he came up about a month ago right now for this Oakland Athletic team. On the season, 5 home runs, 8 RBIs, 14 runs scored, 6 stolen bases, a 232 average, and a 303 on base. But the last 2 weeks, he's starting to show some power, and he's stealing some bags. 4 home runs, 5 RBIs, 8 runs scored, 4 stolen bases, a 200 average, and a 256 on base. So right now, he did get added in 9% of fantasy leagues here. Is Goloff. Still available though in tons of leagues at 85%. And obviously he's getting the everyday opportunity here for an A team that's been out of it since May. August 1st at the Dodgers, 2 for 4 a homer. August 2nd at the Dodgers, 0 for 3. August 3rd at the Dodgers, 2 for 4 with a homer. August 5th versus the Giants, 0 for 3. And August 6th, a big ball game, 3 for 4 with 2 runs and a stolen base. So right now, second base, obviously he plays weak position in fantasy baseball. And if you need help at the position, like I said, he's out there in 85% of fantasy leagues. He can give you some power. He's going to steal some bases. And he's going to play every day here as well as Goloff. So he's definitely a hitter I looked at off the wire this week. The next hitter is Jake Bowers of the New York Yankees. So the Yankees, we know all season, it's been a carousel of outfielders and injuries for this team. Even with Aaron Judge back, this team is still struggling offensively for the most part here. So Bowers, we know he's got some underrated pop, and he's shown it this season. On the year, 11 home runs, 24 runs scored, 25 RBIs, 2 stolen bases, a 235 average, and a 309 on base. So right now, 11 home runs in only 174 at-bats here for Jake Bowers. In the last couple weeks, he's picking it up, 4 home runs, 6 RBIs, 6 runs scored at 278 average, and a 297 on base. So right now, Bowers, he's available pretty much everywhere in 97% of fantasy leagues, and he's getting an everyday opportunity, batting first to second of late for this Yankee team. And they got a big series here coming up at the White Sox. I know the White Sox blew it up and traded everyone away, but you still got to go out there and play the games, and hopefully Jake Bowers could go out there and play better and help this Yankee team as well. So August 1st versus Tampa, 1 for 3. August 2nd versus Tampa, 0 for 4. August 3rd versus the Astros, 0 for 4. August 4th versus the Astros, 2 for 4 a homer in that one. August 5th versus the Astros, 2 for 4 a homer. And August 6th versus Houston, 0 for 4 with a run and a rib. So right now, playing every day is Bowers, batting first to second usually for this Yankee team. And they obviously can use the pop, and a lefty in Yankee Stadium with that short porch and right is always a great thing as well. So right now, Bowers, a solid ad this week, available in 97% of fantasy leagues. And the final hitter I looked at off the wire this week is Tyler O'Neill of the St. Louis Cardinals. So O'Neill finally off the injury list over the last couple weeks here and getting an everyday opportunity now for this Cardinal team. On the season, 5 home runs, 13 RBIs, 19 runs scored, 2 stolen bases, a 255 average, and a 327 on base. And over the last 2 weeks here, 3 home runs, 7 RBIs, 5 runs scored, a 308 average, and a 372 on base. So right now, Tyler O'Neill, coming into the season, he was supposed to be a big bounce back candidate, but obviously early in the year, not running out a couple balls that he didn't run out on ground bases. And then with the injury as well, and this Cardinal team as a whole being a disappointment. It hasn't been a great year for O'Neill, but of late, he's getting things going, and I think it helped fantasy owners. Available in 45% of fantasy leagues with power. August 1st versus Minnesota, 1 for 4 homer. August 2nd versus the Twins, 1 for 4 homer. August 4th versus the Rockies, 1 for 4. August 5th versus the Rockies, 1 for 3 with a homer. And August 6th versus the Rockies, 0 for 4. So right now, in the last week here, he's got 3 home runs as Tyler O'Neill. And if you need some power in RBI production, he could bring that for fantasy owners. So that's a few hitters I looked at here in already week 18 of the fantasy baseball season.